Here. Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm going to run this with your kid hat on for the first 30 minutes. Okay, just about 30 minutes. And then we'll put our adult educator hats on right after that. Okay, so bear with me with your kid hats for this one. Just like we did when I was there. It's nice to see everyone. Nice to see some familiar faces again. Anyone solve this?
Friday is the name of his horse.
Yes. Friday is some of us were thinking too hard on that one. I am one of those people. For sure. Friday's name of his horse. Thank you. Okay, let's go. In our books, when I was looking at the RAM book, so I'm going to switch between facilitator and teacher in here. Okay, I'm looking at the next topic that sort of came up, and there's a story in here about Roland, and Roland wants to become a microbiologist, and he's worked really hard to keep his grades up, but now that spring has arrived, Roland's motivation to study is totally zapped. Our 8th graders are going through that right now, with just my facilitator hat on at school. They have senioritis so Roland is motivated to study, is no longer motivated to study. It's completely zapped. All he wants to do is be outside with his friends. So before we even get into this idea of like, what advice would you give Roland, you know, all of these types of things that these types of activities kind of do, before we get into this, what advice would you give Roland? Can we just hear, like, anybody just unmute? I'd actually rather have us unmute than use the chat, but what is motivation? Before we can even say like, oh, I'm going to give you advice on a thing. I'm not an expert on motivation, but I don't want to assume that I am. So what is motivation? Like, if you were to say what it was, anybody?
The willingness to participate or complete something or do something.
Okay, so willingness to participate, complete something, or do something.
Drive. Like power. Like I think of, you know, so far. Doing something in an effort to get where you want to go. Like there's an end goal that you have in mind.
An end goal. Okay, so effort. I'm hearing tons of words. Anything else that everybody would add on to these very thorough definitions of motivation?
I would just add, based on what everyone was saying, desired outcomes.
Desired outcomes. Thanks, Matt. Okay, thanks for adding that. Okay, so when we're thinking about this, I want you to do this one on your own now, and you can either write or just think silently, okay? What motivates people? So whatever type of learner you are right now, either think silently or do some writing. Those of you that are in a group, just do this one on your own. Just about 1 minute and 30 seconds. What motivates people? If it's easier to come from a place of what motivates you personally, and then maybe shift into what motivates people, if that helps you, you can do that. Just about 30 seconds. Hold on to your thinking about what motivates people, and maybe you're thinking about yourself. I want you to just reflect on that writing or that thinking for a second. Which parts of those is really about you? And which parts of that writing is maybe about the general sort of population of what motivates people? Just think, be a little bit self-reflective. When you went to your answer on that one, think about which all of your thinking may be about you and which parts of your thinking may be about just the general public. So just think about that, do some self-reflection. When you first went to what motivates people, were you thinking more about yourself in that vein or others? Here's what we're gonna do in a group. We're gonna enter into a breakout space, or some of you are already with a small group, or some of you are with a partner already. I want you to kind of greet and check in with one another as you enter that space. If you haven't already said good morning to people around you, take time to read the cards. You're going to see a series of cards. Take time to read those aloud. Or if you want to negotiate in your group, just reading them in your mind on your own, that's totally fine too. And then what you're going to decide is these cards that you see they are all labeled with things that might be answers to what motivates people. And you're going to decide as a group and make some group decisions about moving those cards in to the circle. And you're going to physically drag them if you're using a slide, or what might be out of the circle or what's in the border. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. Okay. So you're going to get a slide that looks like this. And there's going to be a series of cards around them. So these are all individual, just for the facilitator's sake, these are all individual text boxes that you can drag and move. Okay. So you're going to see all these things. Some of them might match the early thinking you've already done, that pre-thinking you've already done. There may be things that aren't in your thinking that are up here. There may be things that you don't agree with. When you start to think about as a group, what goes in and what goes out, there may be things that you decide that are on the border. And I'm going to let you negotiate why that is. I want you to think about what cards might be missing. What isn't there that you were thinking of when you were asked that question? What motivates people? And then I want you to make those kind of in a different text. Everyone has editing rights on this slide. Okay, you'll see it. So make them in a different color, or if you're together, you can write them on a post-it, whatever it is. Okay. When you finish, you have the ability to see everyone else's. So you kind of can do a gallery walk and just visit. Okay. I'm trying to do this hybrid of in person and on Zoom. So I appreciate everyone thinking through this with me. Are there any questions about what you have to do? I'm gonna stop my share for a second.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So everyone wants to be successful. How they define that is different, but
I was gonna think everybody's definition of success.
Mhm.
success could be just, I want to be happy in this activity, or I'm just thinking of kids and
Yeah.
what we ask them to do.
I remember as a student, like something that I would only be motivated, honestly, if it mattered to me or if I felt like I was capable of doing it. Like I was horrific in math and I was always so afraid to go to math class. And while I would do it because I wanted to graduate, so I guess success there, it was like the worst experience I've ever
You
had.
weren't motivated,
No.
even though you did it, you were not motivated.
Exactly. So I'm thinking about it through
Like what was, what thing was missing there? Yeah, so I guess that's kind of like success because, or like competence. If you have some competence in
Yeah.
something, you're more motivated.
And if
to
you're
do it.
interested in something, you're more motivated to do it than if you're not interested in doing it.
Right,
Right, and I feel like there's like the intrinsic and then extrinsic motivations to do things.
Right.
Like, if you're doing something because it's a family expectation, is that really
Ah.
motivating for you, or are you just doing it for others?
Others, exactly. I would keep that one out.
Family
side.
expectations.
Yeah.
I almost agree with Gordon, though. I almost want to take all of them and just put them right around the border
Yeah.
of the circle, because I think all of them in some times of our lives are either in or out.
Yeah.
I also
Can I interrupt the main room really quick?
out there.
yes.
Hey, I just sent a message through. I don't know if you can see it, probably not, but it just says 2 more minutes on the circle part. And if you haven't had the chance to visit other people's circles, and you can start reading the article just to get a start.
Okay, what do you guys want to do? You want to visit other people's circles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Accolades. Everybody left rejection outside, huh?
I feel like rejection though, as we get older, like some people are motivated by that. Like if I failed once, I'm gonna try again.
Mhm.
There's a certain trait that one needs to have in character, but could be.
So the ones that were added in were pressure and power. Pressure, that's a good one, because that's kind of like the family expectations, but to up a notch.
Hmm.
Societal expectations. All right, should we check out this
Yeah.
Newsela article? I might have to sign in. I hope people don't have problems with that.
It's like you didn't have to, it looks like it was there.
Oh, was it there?
It was, and
Then I messed it up.
then it wasn't.
Oh, no, I'm out again. Okay, try one more time.
My glasses.
So this already speaks to what you're talking about, Jesse. Someone wants to make a change.
Right, like I feel like if your teacher asks you to write a speech because you're learning about good speeches versus like you're writing a speech because you're going to deliver it to other people, I and make a change. I feel like there's a lot more motivation.
It's sometimes scary how our students just know so much about
Oh.
tech. Like it could be the newest tech. They're like, they'll figure it out.
Oh my gosh. And the way in which like they call you out if,
They get so frustrated, it was like, come on.
because I'll be talking about something and clicking and they're like, you froze the screen. And I'm like,
Thanks for the invite, Kayla.
Oh, you're always invited in my room, Brian. Suerte, caray.
Suerte, caray.
You got it. That was it.
I'm impressed.
Hard to do, right?
We've been practicing, not really me, I was doing.
I think we're back. Are we all back?
Brian, what do you, this is totally off topic. What do
Okay,
you
we're
have the
back.
students call you, Brian? Do they say sweat they got eye?
Mr. S.
Mr. S.
There you go.
Beautiful.
All right, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So listen, when I was listening to your conversations, when I was walking around, eavesdropping on your conversations, I heard some pretty awesome, what I call like discourse frames or discussion frames or things that I heard you all saying that kept conversation going. I heard people saying, well, I am, I'm thinking about, or I am, and people use personal stories. They talked about personal goals that they have and motivation, things they're working on right now. Brian, I'm going to pick on you because I heard you enter with personal story about training for the half marathon. And so that was something that you brought your personal story into that. And I wish you the best in that training as well. Someone said, well, I'm thinking about, someone said to me, I heard, and if I was thinking fast enough and I could see everybody, I would have written your names right next to these. Someone said, well, I guess I heard someone say something that their partner said was, right, or someone in the group said. And then I heard this really awesome exchange of, maybe you mean this. And someone said, no, actually, I mean this, right? And so there was a really awesome discourse thing that happened, I think just those in your space. Kelsey, I heard you say something like, I don't know what to name that, but, and then your partner sort of supported you in like what that might be and just asking those questions, furthering that inquiry, okay? The awesome, it was like I planted you there, Matt. You said we may be getting off topic, right? That was like an awesome, it's like I asked you to say that. And then the last one that I heard, the last room I left was like, hey, thanks for chatting with me, right? It was like really nice to talk to you, really nice to meet you, which actually, even if you haven't met the person or they've been in middle school with them this whole time, could still happen, right? Like you may not be talking to those people that you're in the group with all the time. And so I'm just walking around writing as fast as I can. That's what I heard. Did anyone else here, just quickly, anything else that you heard someone say or that you wanted to shout out that we could add to this sort of anchor chart for the next time we have a conversation? Or even if it was not something you heard, what did your group do?
Somebody made a link to another text that we were reading. So like a connection to something else that, some other aspect of our work.
Nice. Other things? Did anybody greet their partner? Like say hello? Yeah. Those simple things I think we need to keep naming over and over again, right? Just saying, did other people say thank you besides Kelsey? Okay. Right. So other people probably said thank you, or I heard laughing in groups. I think that's really important to name always. Sometimes that's something looked at as like being off task. And I think joy is something that you should name when you're having discourse. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We have I'm going to go with 4.5 minutes left because I've got my timer kind of going for what actually it's about 5 minutes on my timer, going for what advisory sort of feels like. So some of you got to read the article, maybe start the article, even just a little bit. Did anyone not get to read even a part of it? Or did most people get to at least get their eyes on it?
We didn't really get to read it. We were just working out the class outside, making sure they knew where to go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a little frenetic in the hallway.
I know, yeah, I believe it. Okay, so do this for me. Debbie, if you could scan that QR code with your phone, or I put it in the chat too, you could just pull up the article, you can kind of think about it. Even getting the first headline for you will help you with this next part. If we were going to go back into our groups, and I'm not going to do that just because for the sake of technology, if we come back together as a whole group, I'm going to make a shift in how we do this lesson together, okay? After reading the article, after even reading just the headline or having a quick understanding of what this article might be like, are there any cards that you might add into your circle or any changes you might make about what motivates people? Looking at your circle and understanding kind of what that article was about. Anything that I was missing in my cards?
Do you want us to speak out in our
Yeah,
group?
just speak out. Let's just speak out. Now we're a group together. Come back together.
I don't think we had anything about community as a motivation. And I feel like in that article, the young activists were inspired by their, like, in a sense, their communal identity or something like that.
Yeah, thanks. Community, that's something that we might add. Do other people agree? You might add that to your, yeah,
Yeah, I was also going to say the desire to like solve a problem.
nice. Desire to solve a problem. What else? What motivated these young activists besides their desire to solve a problem? What's the problem?
I mean, injustice.
Yeah. Injustice or justice, right? The need for justice would motivate people, especially in activists. If you identify as an activist or some of the young people in your community identify as budding activists, justice would motivate people. Fairness, right? Kids might use terms like fairness. Anything else? If you hadn't had a chance to see other people's words that they added in a different color text, if you hadn't been able to do that gallery walk, you can. I might leave space to ask a question. You know, if one group wanted to ask a question of another group, like, why did you add societal expectations? Or why did you add competence? That's an interesting one. Might have to move into that. That's how I would frame that last part. We're coming down to sort of the last minute here. I have a challenge question for you all. What zaps motivation? If all of these things feed motivation, what has the ability to zap motivation?
I was just gonna say this, you know, well, especially in that article, just the systems that are set up in society. It's like, why bother trying when I'm just gonna not get there anyway? Because I'm gonna get knocked down by something else that I have no control over.
Yeah. So systems zap motivation. Thanks for using the article. What else? Think of kids. What zaps motivation? What do kids say?
I would say
What? Go ahead.
some of the things that we put as motivation could also like zap their motivation. Like, for example, their friends or their interests changing.
And
I think judgment zaps motivation.
judgment. Thank you. Can you say more about judgment?
Sure. Well, we talked a lot about grades. We talked a lot about like extrinsic, rewards. I think another group put like accolades. We put like recognition. And I think that I see this. I know that I see this a lot in students. My advisory. I know I'm switching probably to more of the conversation that's going to happen later, but I've been trying to talk to them about grades. And kind of just being reflective on how much emphasis we put on it. That's come up a lot in our win time, our grades. So I'm trying to get them to like think about that a little bit. And I think for students, grades sometimes zap motivation.
Thank you so much. It's absolutely happening to me right now. Okay, so we're at the minute, right? You're walking out of advisory now. I've got another little mystery for you. Thanks for that conversation today. We'll pick up on it next time we're together and move into how we can maybe give advice to Roland and think about what Roland might need and his motivation for his grades and thinking about that. You might be walking out talking about this one. You might just be shouting it out. Anybody got it?
No lights, come on, Gordon.
It's always tricky little things. on this thing.
Got it.
Daytime. I haven't gotten any of these, so I'm just acting as though I'm the holder of all this knowledge. I had no clue.